Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. In the first Continental Elite Youth Soul Master tournaments, sects had been included. However, they were subsequently removed for some reason. The Dragon Slayer sect was a sect that had a legacy of more than 10,000 years. They came from the Heavenly Soul Empire, and were a traditional Soul Master sect. They discriminated against Soul tools, and were scornful towards the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy's team. They didn't think they were going to lose. Referee, please enter the stage. The first competitor for each side, please enter the stage 2, the elder who was emceeing instructed them. Hu Hao compared this tournament with the last one. Although he didn't want to admit it, he was certain that he preferred this edition of the tournament more. It was simpler, less flowery, and more practical for fighting. This was the true meaning of a tournament. It was a way to increase the sparring, interaction, and learning between Soul Masters and Soul Engineers. The referee was an elder more than 50 years old. It was impossible to tell his cultivation before he unleashed his martial soul. The first competitor from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy was Meng Hongchen. She was the only one on the team that was inferior to Jing Hongchen, and was the first to compete. This showed how much the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy wanted to win the first battle. This wasn't just about victory, it concerned the face of the Sun Moon Empire. A young man from the Dragon Slayer sect was first to compete. He had a somewhat special appearance. His head was a little flat, he wasn't tall, and he looked a little thick. His palms were extremely large. As he opened them wide beside his body, they looked like fans. At this point, the spectators maintained their silence. They hadn't recovered from the Dragon Emperor Doluor's suppression, as only a short period of time had passed. In this individual elimination round, I will decide who's the winner once either of you loses your fighting strength, or concedes defeat. You must not harm your opponent. Understand, the referee instructed both parties. Yes. The youth representing the Dragon Slayer sect appeared full of energy. After acknowledging the referee's words, he turned around and walked towards his own side. He didn't even carry out the formalities. According to the rules, both parties had to be 100 meters apart from each other before the fight started. This was fairer to some Soul Masters and Soul Engineers who were skilled in long-range attacks. Meng Hongchen had experienced great transformations and become a lady. Her slender figure was proportionate, and she was very charming. Although she wasn't as good-looking as Wang Donga or Jiang Nan, she was still a beauty. However, the other party didn't even glance at her before walking away. Meng Hongchen was greatly displeased by his attitude, and a vicious look flashed across her eyes. She snorted and turned to the other side of the stage. Very soon, both parties were in position. The referee lifted his right hand high. When his palm swiped down, the first battle of the tournament began. While he appeared to look down on Meng Hongchen, he didn't truly underestimate her. When a Soul Master fought against a Soul Engineer, it was important to close the gap. His soul rings lit up as he burst forward. It was easy to tell that he was an Assault-type Soul Master from the power that he unleashed. The sudden burst of strength allowed his cultivation to temporarily rival that of an Agility-type Soul Master. 2 yellow, 2 purple and 1 black soul ring, the best combination, lit up on the youth's body. In this tournament, a 5-ringed Soul Master was considered quite strong. There were only a few 6-ringed Soul Masters and Soul Engineers from a few outstanding academies. The Dragon Slayer sect didn't have a high standing, but they sent a 5-ringed Soul King right from the start. This showed how solid their foundation was. The expression of many leaders from the various academies changed when they saw this. Meng Hongchen didn't rush forward, and didn't even retrieve the soul tool that she always used. She walked forward leisurely, and only an icy blue halo slowly spread from her feet. 2 yellow, 2 purple and 2 black soul rings slowly rose up, and caused the spectating Dragon Slayer sect team members to change their expressions. As sects weren't allowed to compete in the last tournament, and each edition was 5 years apart, the Dragon Slayer sect knew very little about the Sun Moon Soul Engineering Academy's team. They felt that they had bad luck after drawing the previous runners-up, but didn't think they would lose. It's very targeted. Hu Hao was stunned as he commented. Fengshen was using speed to curb Meng Hongchen's venom. Undoubtedly, he had to be very explosive in terms of his offensive power. Meng Hongchen's live experience was rather rich. Seeing that her opponent had burst into the sky, she was also shocked. However, she didn't panic. Her 6 soul rings lit up. Her Ice Venom Ring and Ice Reflection specialty skills were unleashed concurrently. In mid-air, Fengshen's wings flapped open to both sides. His dim purplish glow started to turn darker, and his first and third soul rings shone concurrently. When his first soul ring lit up, his wings also increased 1 foot in size. The dim purplish glow became increasingly darker. When his third soul ring lit up, the glow from his body became even more intense. Everything within a 10-meter radius turned purple. Following this, his 5th soul ring lit up, too. The pitch-black soul ring expanded out, before converting into rings of light that revolved around his body. His body started to distort, and became a little unclear. Shusansha, who was sitting beside Hu Yuhao, squinted and said, "He wants to end this battle in 1 strike." Hu Yuhao smiled and asked, "Third senior, what's your take on this guy's attack?" Shusansha replied without any hesitation, "Very strong. From the looks of it, his martial soul should be the lightning falcon. The lightning falcon has always been recognized as a predator of eagles. It's an extremely quick martial soul. It's a third the size of other falcons, but is extremely vicious. It feeds on the internal organs of other falcons. Even an eagle 10 times its size is scared of it. It's not just quick, it's able to alter its direction at high speed in the air. Among agility-type martial souls, it's one of the best. Of course, its strengths and weaknesses are evident. I don't think I need to explain what its weakness is with high speed and a quick offense, right?" Xiao Xiao and Jiang Nan said at almost the same time, "Defense." Shusansha chuckled and said, "If I were his opponent, he'd collide with my shield and die." Jiang Nan glared at him and snapped, "Would it kill you not to boast?" Shusanshi's expression turned from arrogant to deep. He was filled with passion as he looked at Jiang Nan and said, "I won't die from not boasting. However, I'll die without you." As he spoke, he held onto Jiang Nan's hand and caressed it. Jiang Nan's face turned red. She made a spitting sound before turning her attention back to the stage. However, she didn't pull her hand back. A dim light flashed. Hu Yuhao revealed a pensive look on his face. He was also observing how Meng Hongchen was going to resist the lightning falcon's quick offensive strike. At this point, the purplish figure up in the air finally moved. It formed an arc in the air that came straight towards Meng Hongchen. He was too quick, and caused a piercing sonic boom as he was halfway there. This only happened because he was traveling almost at the speed of sound. Meng Hongchen instantly understood that his attack would be omnidirectional. However, he was so quick that it was impossible for her to unleash her ice reflection. This terrifying speed was beyond her comprehension. She'd never even seen a 7-ringed soul sage reach that speed before. The purplish glow appeared right in front of her as it was unleashed and the sonic boom sounded. However, a dim pinkish glow was suddenly released from Meng Hongchen's chest. This glow changed into a barrier that blocked her body. At the most critical moment, she still relied on a soul tool. It was in her nature. Boom. Meng Hongchen's entire body was swallowed by the frightening purple glow. The tremendous impact caused the metal floor to cave in. Even the icy surface formed by Meng Hongchen's ice reflection started to crack. The strike was truly powerful. All the spectators held their breath. This strike was too terrifying. Although they knew soul masters were strong, it was very rare for them to personally witness the supernatural abilities of a soul master. The frightening strength of impact generated balls of cyclones that caused ripples in the defensive light barriers surrounding the stage. Everyone's attention was caught by the purplish glow. For a Soul King to unleash such a strike, he was close to the standard of a Soul Emperor. In fact, another Soul Master wouldn't have given Fengshen so much time to prepare. He had used too much time to accumulate his power. Regarding this, the Dragon Slayer sect must have had judged that Meng Hongchen wouldn't take the initiative to close the gap, and so Fengshen was instructed to use his strongest attack immediately. Events proved that they had been right. At least, Fengshen managed to successfully unleash his strongest strike. However, had he actually won? In the succeeding rounds, the Dragon Slayer sect didn't have anyone that could curb Meng Hongchen. 4 people fell to her poison. However, her own soul power was also being increasingly depleted. After all, this was a fight between 2 teams. Although her cultivation was greater than rank 65, her soul power was still limited. If not for the fact that her first two opponents were Soul Kings, she wouldn't have been able to survive more than 4 rounds. To prevent her from suffering any injuries, Meng Hongchen conceded defeat when the Dragonslayer sect's team leader stepped up to compete. Eventually, she didn't manage to defeat the entire Dragonslayer sect's team. Even so, the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy demonstrated their worth. Their second competing member was a Soul King and Class 5 Soul Engineer. As he fought the team leader of the Dragonslayer sect's team, he eventually managed to eke out a victory. The Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy thus became the first side to win the first round of the tournament. They didn't even compete in the team round, and managed to advance from the first round with 6 points. The Tang sect team members had various feelings after they finished watching this first round of battles. Xu Sancha looked at the calm Hu Yuhao and softly asked, "Yuhao, who do you think is the best equipped to deal with Meng Hongchen if we face the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy?" Hu Yuhao chortled and replied, "Of course it's me." Xu Sancha thought for a moment before saying, "It can only be you. However, she's not just about her poison. In my opinion, her improvement in the area of soul tools might even surpass her soul master cultivation." Hu Yuhao said, "That's for sure. After all, this is only the first round. She has been holding back throughout. Even at the end, she didn't use her 6th soul skill, or any offensive soul tools. I estimate her main soul tools are already at Class 7. And she is using a special production method to reduce their usage requirements. She is the granddaughter of Jing Hongchen, after all." Xu Sancha said, "If we meet them, what do you think our chances are?" Hu Yuhao smiled and replied, 80% chance of winning." Xu Sancha was stunned as he asked, "So confident?" Hu Yuhao chortled, "Of course. We have you. You can defeat half their team on your own." Xu Sancha furrowed his brow and said, No. How can I take on half their team?" Jiang Nannan took a curious look at him and said, "Since when have you learned to be humble?" Xu Sancha blinked and said, "What I mean is that I can take on their entire team." "Shameless." Jiang Nannan snapped at him. "There's a trumpet in the sky. Who blew it?" Xiao Xiao lifted her head to look at the sky. He Kaitu was sniggering to one side. "If there's a chance, I would like to try," a cold voice sounded from afar. Everyone turned in the direction of this voice. It was the sword fanatic. Ji Juechen's face was very serious, and his gaze was burning. He seemed like he was about to draw his judgment sword to challenge Meng Hongchen to a fight right then and there. The atmosphere in the Mingyu Hotel became more tense after the first day of fights, as those who had not competed watched the eliminated teams leave the hotel. Some of the members of these teams had even died tragically during the course of the tournament. While the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament could make one famous, it could also take one's life away. The sky was slowly getting dark. After eating their dinner, Wang Dong pushed Hu Yuhao back to his room. Although they hadn't competed today, it was still tough on Hu Yuhao. Bei Bei was seriously injured, and thus Yuhao had to take on the responsibility of leading the team. He had to unleash his spiritual detection to observe his opponents, and had to draw up his conclusions from an entire day's worth of fights after returning. His mind was tired. "Donga, let's get a drink," Hu Yuhao said suddenly. "What?" Wang Donga was stunned as she asked, "Are you not tired?" Hu Yuhao chortled, "I should relax because I'm tired. This was what you taught me." Wang Donga didn't reject his proposition, "All right. However, you must rest once we get our drink. We still have to compete tomorrow." Hu Yuhao nodded and replied, "All right." Wang Donga pushed him into the soul elevator, and took it all the way down to the first story. The sky was already completely dark by now. The hotel was extremely peaceful. Wang Donga pushed his wheelchair down to the lobby, where there were very few people. Furthermore, the lighting in the lobby was dimmed at night. Every spot seemed to have its own privacy. The two of them sat in a corner. They didn't drink alcohol, so they ordered 2 glasses of soft drinks. As she sat on the sofa and sipped on her sweet drink, Wang Donga felt much more relaxed. She asked him, "Yuhao, do you want me to carry you to sit on the sofa?" Zhong Lishuan asked, "Even you don't have any confidence in winning?" Shrek's 7 monsters were no longer the preparatory squad members like they were in the previous tournament. Among the 7 members, 4 were Soul Emperors and 3 were Soul Kings. All of them also had strong martial souls. In terms of their soul engineering abilities, Hikaitu and Hu Yuhao weren't weaker than the students of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, either. Even though Bei Bei was gravely injured and Hui Yuhao was temporarily crippled, their competitive abilities weren't in question. They were still superior to Shrek Academy's team. Hui Yuhao shook his head and said, I don't think anyone is really confident. The situation is very complex. Meng Hongchen almost sank in today's fight. If not for her strong protective barrier, she would have lost her second fight. The sects are stronger than I had imagined. All of the teams held back on their abilities, since the tournament has only just started. Under such a situation, it's very hard to tell. Zhong Lishuan sighed and said, Shrek's pride and glory is likely to end in this tournament. I feel like Elder Xian shouldn't have let all of you compete for the Tang sect. Hui Yuhao was stunned and said, Isn't Wang Qiuer there? Eldest senior sister, you should know how strong she is. In a duel, I don't have any confidence of beating her even when I'm at my peak condition. Zhong Lishuan said, if Qiuer was on the same team as all of you, I'd be fully confident. However, Qiuer will find it difficult on her own. Hui Yuhao shook his head and said, it's difficult to tell. Qiuer's fighting will is much stronger than you imagine. Her abilities are also much stronger than you imagine. Oh? It seems like you understand her very well. Zhong Lishuan looked at Wang Dong'er. Hui Yuhao's lips moved slightly. Eldest senior sister, you are picking trouble here. Zhong Lishuan snapped, what picking trouble? Guys are the ones who always hurt the hearts of women. Hui Yuhao could only laugh bitterly at her words. Zhong Lishuan also seemed to realize she had gone slightly overboard, and immediately changed the topic. Yuhao, I have a few things to tell you. We've received news that the body sect is also in this tournament. What? The body sect is also here. This news was well beyond Hui Yuhao's expectations. Some time ago, the body sect had attacked the illustrious Virtue Hall, and inflicted heavy losses on them. They had also given Hui Yuhao the opportunity to leave with the Snow Lady and the huge human-shaped soul tool. That soul tool had already been given to Xian Zuan for research purposes. This tournament was being organized by the Sun Moon Empire, but the body sect actually had the guts to come here. Weren't they scared of being trapped in the Sun Moon Empire? Zhong Lishuan said, not only are they here to compete, a few of the senior members of the sect have also snuck into the city secretly. No one knows what they are plotting. Maybe they are here to protect their disciples, or they might have ulterior motives. It's nothing bad for us. I'm telling you this so that you'll be in the loop. If you meet anyone from the body sect, don't provoke them. Hui Yuhao smiled and said, the enemy of our enemy is our friend. I understand this logic. Don't worry. Is there any other news? Zhong Lishuan said, another thing is, please don't be too conservative in the tournament and in your daily routine. It's not just us from Shrek Academy who are here. Hui Yuhao's eyes brightened. Zhong Lishuan was very clear with her words. There were also some strong individuals from Shrek Academy who were here. Evidently, they were worried about the Sun Moon Empire. This is good news. Hui Yuhao didn't ask who was here. Just knowing they were out there was already enough. Zhong Lishuan revealed a look of hesitation in her eyes, and asked softly, is Bei Bei feeling better? Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong'er's expressions suddenly turned weird. They already knew about the secret between Bei Bei and Zhong Lishuan. As they saw the look of worry that flashed across Zhong Lishuan's eyes, they had the same thought in their mind. She was still brooding over her promise in the past, but was it really just about the promise? He's much better. However, he can't compete for now. Let him rest then. All right, the two of you should rest early, too. Your team will compete tomorrow, right? I wish you all the best. Zhong Lishuan quickly ended the conversation. She stood up and left after bowing slightly to the both of them. Wang Dong'er laughed after Zhong Lishuan left. She said, if anyone from the inner courtyard learns that eldest senior sister has someone in her heart, do you think eldest senior will be in trouble? Hui Yuhao laughed lightly and replied, I don't know. Her news came just in time. If the body sect has really entered Radiant City in such large numbers, it also means that they will try to do something. However, they are in the open this time. Can they even escape? The Sun Moon Empire and Holy Ghost Church are more worrying. I feel like there's something amiss about this tournament, but I can't tell what it is yet. Wang Dong'er grabbed his hand and said, you are already exhausted enough. Don't think so much. In fact, we're already the reigning champions of the tournament. Even if we don't win this time, it's nothing. The future is more important. Do you understand what I mean, Yuhao? Hui Yuhao nodded slightly before shaking his head. I'll try my best. If not for teacher Xiao Ya and eldest senior, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have been able to enter Shrek Academy either and gotten to know you. In my heart, I'll always be eternally grateful to both of them. Teacher Xiao Ya isn't in good shape now. It feels like she's being controlled. Her greatest wish was to rebuild the Tang sect and reinstate its former glory. I must help eldest senior fulfill her wish. Wang Donga nodded slightly and said, I understand. Let me help you. It was just a few words, but there was an indescribable feeling in them. The two of them smiled as they looked at each other. Just as Wang Donga was pushing Hu Yuhao back, someone burst out from the side and exclaimed in surprise, I've finally found you. A wind swept across their faces, and Meng Hongchen blocked their path. She was wearing a long, light blue dress. She was excited as she saw Wang Donga. No, it was Wang Dong in her eyes. Furthermore, she completely ignored Hu Yuhao. It's you. Wang Donga furrowed her brow. Meng Hongchen had been harassing her for far more than 1 or 2 days. Meng Hongchen would find her whenever she had time during the 2 years of the exchange. She couldn't avoid her at all, but she couldn't reveal her true identity either. Meng Hongchen leapt in front of Wang Donga and said, Why aren't all of you representing Shrek Academy? I took some time to search for all of you. I knew that you'd be here. Wang Donga was a little annoyed. Is there something you want? Come here, my love. Let's sleep. Hu Yuhao threw all his worries aside and gestured to Wang Donga. Wang Donga blushed and asked, Are you not cultivating anymore? Hu Yuhao blinked, then replied, I feel like skiving today. Wang Donga said, I feel that your mindset has changed greatly after your injuries. Hu Yuhao smiled and replied, When I opened my eyes that day and saw you again, I suddenly realized that this world is actually very beautiful. Life is very fragile and valuable. However, it's short. It lasts less than 100 years. I want to spend as much time with you as I can and feel your gentleness. Wang Donga was stunned for a moment. She removed her outer coat and switched off the light before crawling underneath the blanket. She got close to Hu Yuhao's body. As Hu Yuhao's lower limbs and left arm contained the chill of ultimate ice, she only stuck close to his upper body. Hu Yuhao hugged her soft and petite figure. He kissed her forehead and suddenly said, What do you think Meng Hongchen would think if she found out that her crush is currently lying in my arms and was even given a peck on her forehead? Wang Donga lifted her head and looked at him with a mysterious gaze. She muttered, She would think of castrating you. Hu Yuhao's butt clenched, and he felt a chill around his groin. It was the second day of the tournament. The atmosphere was still as tense as the first day. After 5 rounds, 6 people were already gravely injured, and 2 people had already died. This showed how intense the competition was. Next round, the Tang sect versus the Earth Dragon sect. Both sides, please enter the waiting area. The first competing member from each side, please come up on stage. They were about to fight. Everyone from the Tang sect became extremely focused. 6 people stood up. They were He Kai-tu, Shu Sansha, Jiang Nan, Xiao Xiao, Wang Donga and Nana. Wang Donga went behind Hu Yuhao's wheelchair and pushed him into the waiting area. What? On the main stage, Shu Qianran focused his gaze. Why is there someone in a wheelchair? All 7 of the Tang sect's competing members entered the waiting area. Shu Sansha asked, Yuhao, do you really want to fight? Hu Yuhao nodded slightly and said, It's the best way of concealing our overall abilities. Even if someone finds out, he won't know what level your cultivations are at. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Shu Sansha nodded and didn't say anything else. Wang Donga bit her lips and pushed Hu Yuhao onto the stage. All the spectators were already cheering at this moment. A cripple in a wheelchair had actually appeared on the big stage where soul masters and soul engineers exhibited their abilities. This was beyond their expectations. Those who had seen Hu Yuhao before were also shocked. They initially thought Hu Yuhao wasn't a competitor, but who knew that he would be the first to compete. This was completely unimaginable. Even the referee was a little dumbfounded. He quickly walked over and doubtfully asked, What's going on, Tang sect team? Are you sending a cripple to compete? Wang Donga answered, Who says he's a cripple? She hated it when others called Hu Yuhao a cripple. The referee thought to himself, Why is he in a wheelchair if he's not a cripple? Is this some kind of trick? I'm just ascertaining whether you are sending him to compete first. The referee's expression also turned gloomy. To qualify as a referee, his cultivation wasn't weak either. He naturally wasn't bothered about these young people in front of him. Moreover, the Tang sect wasn't that reputable. He didn't have to show them any face. Hu Yuhao smiled and said, "That's right. I'm the one competing. Sorry for troubling you." The referee furrowed his brow and didn't say anything else. He only nodded. On the other side, the Earth Dragon Sect team's first competing member had also entered the stage. It was a youth with a very proportionate figure. He was also stunned when he saw Hu Yuhao. He mumbled, "The Tang sect is really interesting, sending a cripple to compete." Wang Donga glared at him and said, "I've said that is not a cripple." The youth expressed the inner thoughts of the referee earlier. If he's not a cripple, why is he in a wheelchair? Wang Donga was about to act up, but she was stopped by Hu Yuhao. He smiled and said, "Donga, you can go first." Wang Donga held in her anger and looked at Hu Yuhao concernedly as she lowered her head. Hu Yuhao gave her a reassuring glance before she left the stage. The referee said, "Since you should be clear on the tournament rules, I won't repeat them again. Please retreat to your positions. The fight will begin once I give the signal." "Yes." Hu Yuhao smiled as he nodded at the referee. He pushed his wheelchair with one hand as he proceeded to one side of the stage. "Hey!" The youth from the Earth Dragon sect shouted. Xiao Hongchen sighed. "It's a pity then. I thought of fighting him properly in this tournament. According to Grandpa, he should be my match. It's really a pity. It's difficult to find a good match." As he spoke, he placed his hands behind his back and revealed a cold and arrogant look on his face as he looked at the stage. Meng Hongchen snorted and said, "It's better that he's crippled. It's less trouble for us. This Earth Dragon sect is also stupid. They must be underestimating the Tang sect. Can't they tell that those people in the waiting area are the main ones they have to beat?" Xiao Hongchen chuckled and said, "This is called karma. Even though they can't possibly beat us in this tournament, they are still the reigning champions. They've actually been underestimated. Oh yes, Meng, you should stop finding Wang Dong. You should know that the two of you are impossible." Meng Hongchen said furiously, "Why not? Why not? If he's willing to join the Sun Moon Empire, can't we be together? I don't care. If we meet the Tang sect later on, you must not hurt him. Otherwise, I'll take your life." Xiao Hongchen revealed a sad look on his face. Girls always side with outsiders. "We must meet them first. According to my investigation, the Earth Dragon sect isn't considered weak, even though they aren't that strong. Let's see what improvements this bunch from the Tang sect have made. Why isn't Bei Bei here?" Meng Hongchen shook her head and said, "I don't know. I'll ask someone to check it out when we return." They weren't the only ones discussing the Tang sect team. Princess Jojo and Princess Wei Na were also focused on Hu Yuhao at this point. They hadn't expected Hu Yuhao to be the first to compete on behalf of the Tang sect. They were also interested to see how much energy he still had after he was crippled. Xu Qianran gestured, and a middle-aged man came to him. The middle-aged man bowed and said, "Your Highness." Xu Qianran said, "Go and find out the background of this guy in the wheelchair, and why he's here to compete even though he's in a wheelchair. If he wins the first round, ask someone to instruct the referee to preserve his life no matter what happens next." "Yes." The middle-aged man acknowledged his words and quickly went on his way. Juzi was in a daze now. She was even on the verge of tearing up. "It's him. It's him. Why is it him?" When Hu Yuhao turned his wheelchair around, Juzi saw his face clearly. She hadn't expected him to be the one in the wheelchair. The referee lifted his hand up high and looked at both parties, especially Hu Yuhao. After ascertaining that they were ready, his right hand swiped down, and he announced the start of the tournament. Hu Yuhao moved. However, his soul rings didn't appear. He only turned the wheels of his wheelchair and moved forward slowly. It was as fast as it was when he went into position earlier. On the other side, Shu Shenshu's aura soared. He looked into the sky and roared. After that, he burst out like a cannon shell. His right foot stomped on the ground, and his body lifted into the air. As he was in the air, his bones crackled. 2 yellow and 3 purple soul rings appeared concurrently from his body. His body also grew in size as he unleashed his martial soul. Earth Dragon Sect. It was exactly as its name suggested. Soul masters of this sect had varied versions of the Earth Dragon as their martial soul. As Shu Shenshu's body expanded in size, his skin also bulged with a layer of black keratin. Bulges also started to surface from his back. As the bulges burst open, several sharp dorsal fins poked out of his back. His martial soul was a saber-tooth earth dragon, a pure strength-type martial soul. It was good at both attack and defense. Its weakness was that it wasn't adept at long-range attacks. As his body burst forward, Shushenshu's arms extended to his sides, and he revealed his developed chest muscles. On the outside of his arms, a layer of curved claws poked out. His first soul ring lit up. Shushenshu's layer of keratin exuded a black glow at this moment, and his strength seemed to have increased, too. In a few steps, he was less than 20 meters from Huiyuhao. There was only one thought in everyone's minds right now. They believed he didn't have to be so ferocious against a disabled person. Empathy for the weak. This was almost the same mindset that everyone possessed. Moreover, Huiyuhao seemed too weak. Huiyuhao stopped pushing his wheelchair forward. After that, an orange glow lit up from his body. A small and petite figure crawled out from his forehead and blocked the way in front of him. This figure wasn't more than 3 feet tall and seemed around 2 years old. She wore a deep blue belly wrap, which accentuated her powdery white skin. Under the illumination of the orange glow, this small lady looked extremely beautiful. Shushenshu's aura was still very scary when he leapt over. However, he was wondering what was going on when he saw the small lady between him and Huiyuhao just as he was about to reach him. Shushenshu was in a daze and frantically changed directions. He was here to compete, not to kill, especially not such a cute little lady. How could he bear to? "Uncle," the young lady called. Her voice sounded like a baby, and it even sounded a little unclear. He could only roughly hear what she was saying. The snow lady turned around and flew back to Huiyuhao. She sat on his shoulder and called out in delight, "Daddy." Every time she called him that, Huiyuhao would shudder in his heart as he remembered how strong the Snow Empress was. However, he absolutely adored this snow lady. This was the end. The entire grounds went silent. No one had expected this result. Absolutely no one. Even the Tang sect team didn't know that Huiyuhao would unleash the Snow Empress spirit the moment he appeared. Everyone from the Earth Dragon sect was also dumbfounded. They could have never expected such a result. The referee rushed over and checked on Shushenshu's condition. After that, he immediately announced that Huiyuhao had emerged victorious. The referee's eyes never left the snow lady. He had clearly heard her calling Huiyuhao her father. He had never even heard of anyone bringing their kid to compete in the tournament before. Was that really his daughter? No, that was impossible. She was such a small kid, but she was very powerful. Was it his soul skill? However, he didn't even unleash his martial soul. Or perhaps that was his martial soul. Even the referee, who was pretty strong, had his own doubts. The rest of the competitors were in greater doubt. They were all confused when they saw the snow lady. All sorts of guesses started to surface. When the snow lady came over to Shushenshu to help him melt the ice, Shushenshu was shivering as he looked at her. You. The snow lady unleashed her most lethal weapon. She pointed her 2 index fingers forward and lowered her head, revealing an indignant look on her face. Shushenshu's pupils dilated, and he quickly said, "Little girl, don't cry. Don't cry, I've lost. I'll leave the stage." As he spoke, he started to leave the stage in low spirits. After walking past Huiyuhao, he shot him a furious look and said, "You are too despicable. How can you bring a kid to compete? Aren't you scared of hurting her?" Huiyuhao was a little helpless. "Thanks for your reminder. I'll keep her safe." "Oh, you are a good guy. You don't have to play this card." Shushenshu quickly made his way off the stage. Victory. The guy in the wheelchair had actually won. From the looks of it, he didn't do anything either. However, where did the young lady come from? The third competing member from the Earth Dragon sect didn't last longer than the first 2 members. Once he entered, he burst towards Huiyuhao and the snow lady like the first 2. However, he was much more intelligent this time. He attacked the snow lady directly. However, the snow lady made a dancing motion with her hands when he closed to around 20 meters from her. After that, a white ice ring appeared in front of him. This Earth Dragon sect member reacted quite quickly. As he flipped his body, he avoided the ice ring. However, the ice ring formed a thick ice pillar which blew apart instantly. The crushed ice trapped his body, and he was turned into an ice sculpture after the explosive force disappeared. The rest of the Earth Dragon sect team couldn't keep their cool anymore as the tournament reached this stage. They were truly impressed by the snow lady's fighting strength. It wasn't just luck, Hu Yuhao was truly strong. No wonder he dared to compete even though he was in a wheelchair. The snow lady flew back in front of Hu Yuhao and sat on his thigh. She grabbed his sleeve, and her eyes were filled with an innocent look. The soul power that she had depleted was instantly restored. Hu Yuhao was full of the origin energy of ultimate ice, so he let the snow lady fight. On the one hand, he could remain mysterious to his opponents. On the other hand, the snow lady could absorb origin energy from him if she used up hers. The snow lady sucked away the chill on the surface of his skin, but the essential origin energy was absorbed by him. When she returned to his body, they could share this essence. Hu Yuhao had thought of this before, but the snow lady had sucked away too much origin energy the last time. It was only recently that she had finally managed to completely absorb her share of the origin energy. As her powers greatly increased, she became more telepathically connected to Hu Yuhao, too. That was why she could now come out to fight. Sister. Wang Donga looked at shock at Hu Yuhao. Then she quickly got over her shock. Hu Yuhao had told her that he was an orphan. She was familiar with his background. There was only one person he would call sister. You mean to say that was Sister Xiaotao's voice? That can't be real, Wang Donga said in shock. Hu Yuhao turned his head to look at her seriously and said, why can't it be real? If this is true, it would make sense. Sister Xiaotao's disappearance has something to do with Jing Hongchen. This is undeniable. He probably used some trick when he was observing her, which allowed her to leave so easily. Furthermore, when Sister Xiaodao disappeared, the academy was under attack, too. Teacher told me that the attackers were a group of evil soul masters. The Holy Ghost sect is the only sect formed from evil soul masters that I know of. If they captured Sister Xiaodao, then everything would make sense. Sister Xiaodao and teacher Tang Ya have been captured by them. These bastards. As he said that, Hu Yuhao clenched his fists and became more and more emotional. Despite how reasonable his prediction was, he would have never expected to see Ma Xiaodao here until he heard her voice. The competitions for the morning end now. For the teams that are competing in the afternoon, please don't be late. The teams who have finished competing may return to their hotels to rest and prepare for the subsequent rounds. Part 1 end here.